topic economics of nuclear power plants, its merits, demerits, and also let us understand the site selection process for the nuclear energy. First of all, what do you mean by economics of a nuclear power plant? We must consider different parameters or points for the economic analysis are capital investment, plant life, fixed operating and maintenance cost, plant operating conditions such as plant load factor. These four factors plays very important role while deciding the economics of a nuclear power plant. Let us analyze one by one what exactly is capital investment. Capital investment includes overall the cost of the land, of the amount which is including the nuclear reactors, heat exchangers, steam turbines, turbo alternators, and also the cost of design and planning. Here the capital cost of a nuclear reactor is very high, and also the cost of the cooling towers will also be high. Next is plant life. See, plant life, we need to consider how many years the plant is going to long last. Especially if you take into consideration of 15 to 20 years, the 20 years we need to keep in mind that 20 years is the overall plant life. As per that, the overall economic analysis has to be done. Next is fixed cost. The fixed cost would be like interest, depreciation values, taxes, insurance charges. So regardless of whether you generate or not, these costs has to be paid. Hence we call them as fixed cost. So the insurance charges will be higher than that of the conventional power plants in the nuclear because of the risk involvement in the nuclear power plant. Next, fourth one is operation and maintenance cost. What do you mean by operation and maintenance cost? Here the fuel operation and maintenance cost consists of cost of nuclear material such as processing materials, disposal of waste, and the salaries, wages of the operating and maintenance staff. Last one is plant operating conditions. Now we must consider overall efficiency in this plant operating conditions. If overall efficiency is around 30 to 40%, then the initial investment and the capital cost of the nuclear power generally is higher in nature than that of the thermal power plant. But when with respect to efficiency, if it is of 30 to 40%, then we must keep in mind the overall cost of the plant operating. So these are the economics of nuclear power plant which we must keep in mind before designing or setting up a nuclear power plant. Coming to advantages of nuclear power plant, there are many merits of nuclear power plant. Once we consider the overall operating cost and the energy produced, then we can say that operating cost is lower only compared to other power plants, and the amount of fuel required is very less when we compare with your hydro and thermal. And area wise also these plants require less area when we compare the same capacity power plant of different nature, like your it may be hydro, it may be diesel, gas, or any other power plant. In addition to that, it can also produce valuable fissile materials. It can be located near the load centers. Wherever the load center is there, we will be able to design near to that load centers. The plants can ensure continued supply of electrical energy because of large deposits of nuclear fuel available all over the world. So these are the certain advantages which will encourage us to design nuclear power plants or nuclear energy from the nuclear power plants. Also, certainly it has some demerits also. Let us understand what are the demerits. Now when it comes to demerits, as we have discussed, the overall equipment and the initial cost is very high, and also the fission byproducts are generally radioactive in nature, and it may be dangerous. Amount of pollution may be caused to the environment if proper measures are not taken. Then the other major problem is disposal of waste. That is, flue gases is a bigger issue and also the cooling water requirements are very high, and hence cooling towers required are also large. So these plants are not suitable for the varying load because of the fuel nature involvement here. So this is the demerits of the nuclear power plant. When it comes to site selection process, Just like other power plants, here also we must keep few points in mind before selecting the site. First and foremost is availability of water supply. So even though the water is not used as a main resources, the sufficient amount of water is must be available for cooling, and the site selection should be near a river or lake or by seaside. Now distance from the populated area, since always there is a danger of radioactivity and atmospheric pollution, we must be care must be taken in order to locate this nuclear power plant at a certain distance from the populated area. Next, transportation facilities. Wherever the plant is set up, whichever may be the plant, the transportation facility must be fairly available. Next, near to the load center, that is once we generate the power, the transmission losses should be as less as possible. Hence, we go for nearness to the load center. Next, availability of space for disposal of waste. So we must mark the disposal of waste initially. We have to locate the space, and all the necessary arrangements must have been taken care of in order to dispose the radioactive material. Next is accessibility. There should be reasonable accessibility for the plant for dispatching and receiving heavily shielded radioactive materials. Also, finally, we need to look for the type of land. The type of land must be strong enough to support the heavy structures, and also the cost of the land must be viable. So these things should be kept in mind before selection of site. Hope you understood the selection of site process, merits, demerits, and how exactly the economics of nuclear power plants have been done. Thank you.